Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Round 2 podcast. My name is Nikki. I am your host, and I am seriously, genuinely so excited to be finally starting this and putting this out into the world. I had this idea for this podcast probably about 4 years ago. It popped into my head after I had gone through a major life change, and I thought, wow, I've learned so much over the past year, and going through the experience that I went through, which was a divorce, I realized that there are so many things in life where something happens and it completely changes the path that you were on in ways that you never expected or anticipated it to. Interestingly enough, we're almost at the end of 2022 and I'm finally getting this going. So I'm really, really excited because I feel like I am at a great place to have these conversations. And I have a very long list of people who I think have amazing stories. And I am really excited to sit down and talk with them and learn more about their paths and their journeys and their lives. While also, I'm sure, bouncing all around. There's not really going to be one specific, genre or I don't even know, category that I think that this would fit into. I think the most, the highest or the next subcategory that this would fall into would be kind of self-improvement and or self-awareness. I feel like that's a really big part of what ends up happening when you have a major life change. And certainly over the past almost 3 years now, I know that there are many of us who have gone through many different other unexpected life changes as a result of the environment, with the pandemic, with the political environment and everything that's going on in the world. So I'm just really excited to finally be sharing my thoughts, my voice, and enjoying conversations with people who I find very interesting, and I hope that you will too. So first off, this is my first time ever doing this, but as the old saying goes, you have to start something in order to get better at it. So I imagine that these first few episodes might not be so fantastic. I'm still learning how to record. I don't know if I'll end up wanting to edit at some time, but for now, I just decided let's do it and see where it happens and see where it goes. So round 2, where did that name come from? What is the idea? What does it mean? Basically, what I realized through conversations that I had when I started sharing with people that I was going through a divorce was that there are, first of all, so many people out there who don't talk about the hard stuff that's going on in their lives. I know that I was very, very guilty of that. I always felt like I was somebody who my friends could come to. I think I give pretty good advice. I think that's why people come to me and people trust me. But I realized that I was never someone who was sharing anything that was going on in my life that I was struggling with. I was always just like kind of steady Eddie. Everything's going fine. Now, don't get me wrong. I certainly had my moments of frustration and I'm very comfortable sharing those. But I think that when it came down to the big things, the things that matter, I opted to keep all of that bottled up inside. And when I finally started sharing that, things weren't going as I had envisioned and as I had hoped, and that I didn't think that my ex-husband and I were the right match for one another, and that it was time for us to end things, I realized that there are so many other people out there with similar situations and similar stories. And, but you know what? A lot of people don't have the courage to make the change. I think that was probably one of the things that I found most interesting when I started sharing things. But then after all of that was said and done, and I had moved out and was on my own again, I looked around at people in my life, whether they were friends, family, friends of friends, business people, and I realized that I had a very large number of people in my life who had been, living their lives, going on a certain path, really not ever thinking that they would deter too much from that path. And then something happened. They decided to make a change for their health. They decided to change careers. They had an unexpected natural disaster impact their life. They lost a family member or lost a friend. And as a result of all of that, their life basically just completely ended up on a different path. And now they're doing different things. They're living different lives. They're essentially different versions of themselves. And I thought that these stories were so fascinating because, where it originated for me was, I think it's pretty safe to say that most people, when they get married, hopefully more than 99% of people when they get married, don't set out on that marriage intending to get a divorce. They set out on that marriage because they think that they've found a life partner. They think that they have met the person that they want to share the rest of their lives with. No one should, or at least I think most people don't get married thinking, oh, well, I'll do this for a few years and then we'll get divorced and move on. And one of the things that I found interesting about divorce in general, I remember years ago, I had a friend going through a divorce, and she was the one who wanted it. She had been miserable for years. And I remember thinking when she was finally going through with it that she would be so happy even during the process. And I remember the day she called me when she had gone to the courthouse and filed the paperwork. And I said, well, oh my gosh, aren't you so happy? Aren't you so relieved? And she said, no, I'm actually really, really sad. And it took me a minute to process all of that and to think through that and to really understand that based on everything that she had been through. But then when I was there a few years later, I totally got it. And it made a ton of sense to me because it is super sad. And it's not something that anybody wants to go through, whether you're the one who initiates it or the one who is there still wanting to fight and wanting to try. I hated going through all of that because I think for me, the reason I hated it so much is because I knew that I was hurting another person. And I never in a million years had intended or wanted to hurt somebody like that. So that is a tough pill to swallow, even though you know that you are doing the right thing for yourself and for that other person. So that is the premise for round 2. I'm so excited to have these lists of people to share these stories and to have some conversations and see where the conversations lead. I think that's my favorite part about sitting down and talking to somebody, whether you go into a meeting or you go into a happy hour and you're like, oh, I want to talk about this, this, and this with these people or that person. And then the conversation ends and goes a certain way that you didn't intend it to. So that is round 2. I hope that you will subscribe, like, share with a friend. If you have a friend who you think would fit this or would be a great person to talk to, please send them my way. There is all of the links to all of the places, to all of the things to be able to contact me, listen on whatever platform suits you. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Those of you who are listening, who are my friends in real life, thank you so much for supporting me as I start this journey. And we will talk to you all next week.